Recording in progress.
Okay. Pressure off him. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the Design Review Board meeting of July 12th, 2022 to order. And first, I'd like to ask you all to stand up and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we turn this down a little bit? It's really loud. There we go. Let's see if this will get a little better. How's that? Still pretty loud.
And we'll make sure they can hear you.
Next, I'd like to introduce staff and our board.
Shubhajangam Senior Planner,
Michael Cardiman, Planner 2.
Lee Collins, Westbrook Road.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Kim Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Doug Haney, Bethany Way.
All right, now I'd like to get an approval of the agenda for tonight. Any discussion, changes? Can we get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next, I'd like to get discussion and an approval of last month's meeting minutes. Any discussion? Any additions or changes? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minute meetings from June 7th, 2022.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, with that done, let's see. We'll move to demolitions. And the first item on our agenda is 5A, 14620 Freemanville Road. Is the applicant here?
Hello, I'm Sarah Leaders, the Public Works Director for the City of Milton here. And this first structure is a house on Freemanville Road. It's on a 12-acre parcel. It's purchased with Green Space Bond Fund. And there are two structures associated with the property. One is, actually there's three. There's a barn at the front, which we definitely want to preserve that. Then there's the house, and then there's a separate attached, more like a pool house. The pool's been filled in already. So this permit is to demolish the house, again, to support the more natural use of the passive property as it was purchased with green space bond funds.
Okay. And they are going to save the barn.
Correct. Yes.
Who's going to restore that? What's the plan for the barn?
So we're gonna look at if there's some temporary stabilization we can do just to ensure that that it maintains, and then look at some restoration options to keep it in its historic form.
Should we reach out to the Historical Society and talk to them about volunteers or their interest in working on that with us?
Sure, at some point that would definitely be worthwhile.
Okay, let us know when that might be, because I know they'll be interested in that. And for the record, this is green space that the city acquired, but it's also for the back entry to the park. You might explain what this is about.
Sure. So we call this the Kennedy property. It was formerly owned by, that was the last name. And it does abut the Milton City Park and Preserve. So it meets what's called the south woods of that property. It's the portion that hasn't been developed yet at all. The golf cart paths still remain in the south woods, but the access is very limited. So this parcel will actually provide, possibly in the future, a link to that south woods portion of the property.
From Freemanville Road.
From Freemanville Road.
All right, great. We'll close the public hearing and ask the board for their comments, discussion.
I take it the house is derelict and no historic value.
Right. It was not purchased, or in the appraisal, it did not have, contributing value to the property.
There's no opposition.
No opposition.
Any other discussion? Can we get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the demolition of 14620 Freemanville Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda for this evening is 5B, 170 Cox Road. And I think Miss Sarah's back up for a second round here.
Sure. Yep. So Public Works handles the demolition contracts as well as all the work to prepare for those. So this one is right now it's named the Cox Road Athletic Complex that the city purchased. That had two buildings on it when it was purchased. Currently in the process of redoing the fields to change those to all turf. And as part of that, the front building it's a concrete structure that was not in great shape. The second building does have the restrooms and some storage in it. So our Parks and Rec director came before council to talk about the future of the property and those buildings, and received concurrence to move ahead with demolition of the front building at that property.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Any opposition?
No.
Hearing none. What's the board's pleasure?
So you're only taking down the front building, not the back one with the bathrooms?
Correct,
Right.
just the front building.
Is there a plan to put a new structure there, or are we just getting rid of it and just keeping the bathrooms?
Just getting rid of it and even making more parking spaces available. So just covering it with asphalt millings to create more parking space.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion to approve demo of 170 Cox Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next phase of our meeting tonight is courtesy reviews. We review these items and recommend to BZA on our thoughts You okay?
Yep.
You looked startled.
So is who's the applicant for this?
Yep. Reagan Ferguson. He's here.
Yeah.
All right, so
Why don't just to call the applicant?
Huh?
Did you call the applicant?
Yeah, 6A, 14420 Birmingham Highway. And again, we're going to recommend, we're not going to vote, and our recommendation is reviewed by the BZA, and they make the final decision.
Understood. Thank you. I'm Reagan Ferguson, and my wife Barbara and I have lived at 14420 up the road on Birmingham Highway for almost 27 years now, and ran the Blossom and Bloom greenhouses for many, many years. And it seems the subject of question is the glass greenhouses that have rested where they are since either 1987 or 88. And there is a drainage ditch that was performed behind these greenhouses such that it did not flood from stormwaters that would have moved from higher elevations at our neighbors at Enniskerry, lakes of Enniskerry, down through the property. And this was, it's described as a stream. It's a really nice drainage ditch that has a 36-inch culvert pipe in it that moves water downhill and around the greenhouses instead of through them. I was never aware that there was an issue with this until we brought a survey up here for everyone's perusal, and we were told that, oh, indeed, this was a stream, and that it fell well within the 50-foot city buffer and the 75-foot impervious buffer. And,
Let me ask you this. What caused you, and the stream buffers have changed significantly in 25 years. And so what's causing you to have to bring a survey up here, and what's going on that's causing that?
I am trying to build a small cottage-style home. We've got a tract that's 9.74 acres. We actually came up here to submit a recombination survey. So when we purchased the property, I came out here in 1996 to operate this facility as manager for a gentleman named Erwin Adderholt, who owned that property at the time. And he needed a grower for the commercial facility. And I accepted the position. And at that time, I mean, again, these green, he had purchased them from the original owner who erected them in either 87 or 88. And these are actually the old glass, the Lord and Burnham glass houses from the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. And the folks, he knew Jim Conboy was the fellow who brought them out here. And he was his father-in-law.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Let's deal with where we are today
Okay.
and see if we can solve your problem, because you're giving us more than we can ever remember. So
My apologies.
no, that's okay. So what I'm trying to get to is, you've been here a long time, your grandfather, I'm good with all that. And it's been here forever, as you point out, and you've operated it. But something's causing the problem now, and that's why you're before us. And that's what I'd like to get to. So you started down the road of, I'm trying to build a new cottage. Where's that going? And then do you own tract 4 and tract 1 also?
So let me answer that question. The whole site plan that you are seeing, the track 1, 2, and 4, all this, you are seeing a subdivision right now, but the applicant came to subdivide the property, and that's when we realized that some of these structures are in the stream buffer, so we asked him to get a variance. He owned all this big property. Now he's in the
So
process
let me ask, he owns tract 1 and 4 now.
Yep.
And you're looking to combine them and then build a cottage house on the backside?
No, he's subdividing it. He owns the whole property, the whole rectangle. Now he's just subdividing it.
Has it been I'm just
No.
dealing in facts.
Okay, so this is what he's trying to do.
And when we drift around, we can't get to the fact. So it has not been subdivided.
It's not, it cannot be done until he gets a variance.
Okay, but if it's subdivided, we would then be seeing tract 1 and tract 4.
So really, it's 3 total lots. 4 is across the street, but it's part of,
It's an old piece of property that was clearly here prior to the existence of the highway. It's a dead rectangle, and there's a small piece, 1.14 acres, that extends across onto the east side of the highway. So
property belongs, owns the whole. He's just dividing it into 3 pieces of
Shubha, we're looking at this. Is that what we're?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Right. So this is yet to take place. So basically, he owns a big rectangle of 9.74 acres, wants to divide it into.
That has not been subdivided yet.
Hasn't yet,
yet.
and
We
that's
haven't
what caused
moved it
the
yet.
issue.
So I have a
That's why
question.
you're here today, because trying to do that.
Right, it was
We
my
have to get the-
understanding it had to be notated on the survey, the variance had to be notated on these buildings on the survey prior to moving
Yeah,
forward.
no, we understand. I'm just trying to, in public hearing, get the facts up here of where we want to go, not where we've been. And so you're wanting to subdivide it, and then you talked about building a cottage, and I'm looking at the buildings, wondering where the cottage might be. Where would the cottage be, on tract 1 or tract 4?
I'm not even familiar with how this survey is produced.
This is what you, so you have a house, right?
Zoom out, Shubha.
Good evening.
It would be built on what is described as tract 1.
So-
Okay.
So I have a question. It appears to me that the way that you're doing this is essentially you have the proposed 20-foot ingress and egress easement. So essentially you could later on sell tract 1, tract 4, and the existing track as well. And so obviously that 20-foot ingress egress easement would be for access to those rear parcels. Because this is such an egregious, I really don't have an issue, obviously, or to be honest with you, with the existing buildings, because they've been there, because technically they are what I would be considered as something that could be removed. But if the ZBA, and this is my recommendation, was to cross that stream, you're going to need a national permit as well. And then if the grant for these existing buildings is approved within the 50-foot stream buffer, then if an applicant comes forward looking to purchase tract 4 from Mr. Reagan, will they have the same variance within that 50-foot setback for the access to that and whatever structures they do within that existing, the 2 new tracks and also the egress easement?
So right now, they need a variance to subdivide. Once they have subdivided into 3 tracks, 3 separate parcels, the variance is going to go only with the first one where the structures are. So the other parcels are not going to require a variance unless they're doing something else over there.
They're not, but to cross that, obviously you have to go through the 75-foot, 50-foot, 25-foot, cross the stream, and then, and so forth to get to those parcels.
That's permitted. Crossing perpendicular to the stream is permitted, so they will be able to cross.
Correct. But they just would have to come back for an additional variance if there was any
For
disturbance.
driveway, no.
Okay, okay.
Might I point out that I have no intentions of selling any of this property. This is a tract of land. I'm building a home for my grandson. It was intended for my son, but he died. And I'd like to move it down the line. That's all. I hope they never sell it. I hope it's in their names 100 years from now, their grandchildren. That's my intent. This is not a sale or a profiteering adventure. Please forgive me.
No, you're fine.
All right. Let's close the public hearing so the board can discuss this. So we'll close the public hearing. Do we have any opposition to this?
No.
Okay, hearing no opposition, if we're going to recommend something, and you can sit down if you'd like.
Thank you.
BZA will hear this on the variance. Will this go to Planning Commission for subdividing?
Well, this is a minor plat, so, so it won't go to planning commission. It will be approved by the director. But I would like to say one thing, since these structures have been there on the site for a long time, our site development engineer in-house said that removing them would be a actual disturbance. So he's recommended keeping them. So we are kind of in support with the variance.
I agree with that.
Okay, what's the board's discussion?
Well,
And again, we're going to make a recommendation to BZA.
Yeah, so approving the variance would approve these structures staying, almost grandfathering them in because they've been there for longer than the variances have been around, but it's not providing the ability for other variances on tracks 1 and 4 in the future. It's just for these as they sit.
And would the variance be tied to this, obviously this specific site plan, but also this specific structure? And really the only reason I'm asking is if, and I understand that it's not your intent to sell, but eventually property does sell. And so if someone comes in and says, I don't really want to grow plants, I want to build a barn there, would that be something that they could do because this variance has been granted with those properties already in there in that coverage within the 50 and 75-foot stream buffer?
So it's been a practice with BZA that they always approve it with the site plan
Got
that
it.
was submitted on certain date, and we keep it in the file. So the variance would be approved for that particular address with that particular site plan.
Okay.
So it won't be approved for any future buildings in the setback. It's just for those.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, who wants to do the recommendation?
You want to go for it?
Go for it.
Yeah, so I will recommend to BZA to approve the 14420 Birmingham Highway to allow the variance for the structures as they sit on the plat currently given to us.
Good. Let's see, what item was that? Was that 6B? 6B.
6A.
6A.
We're on 6B now.
Yeah. So that was 6B.
So we'll recommend
That was
approval.
6A.
Thank you, sir.
A.
That was
It's
6A.
6A.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Item 6B, 1200 Nix Road, Milton, Georgia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faye Colbert with Aqua Design Pools and Spas. I'm here with the homeowner, Mr. Neil Keene, at 1200 Nix Road. Just to get straight to the point, we are looking to reduce the front setback for an existing structure, for two structures, actually, the existing home and an existing detached garage, for the installation of a swimming pool after, hopefully, this is approved. The home was built in 2001. And Milton became an awesome city in 2006, way before. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You look like you ask a question, go ahead.
Okay. Is there any opposition to this?
No.
All right, we'll close the public hearing
Yes, sir.
and let the board have its discussion. And again, this will be a recommendation to BZA, not a vote, and BZA will make the final approval.
Was the substructure, the two-story wood, 500 square foot garage also built in 2001?
2008.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion?
First glance, this seems like, there's not much they can do about this.
Yeah, I mean, if you drive by, it's so heavily wooded. It's a gravel road.
Yeah.
I mean, um, you know, I think this is again a situation where they're asking for a variance for an existing structure that's been there for quite some time.
I just wanted to make sure that building wasn't just put up yesterday, but beyond that, I mean, it seems like this is a pretty cut and dry. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Okay, can we get a recommendation? Who wants to do the recommendation?
I don't mind to make a recommendation that the variance needed for an existing structure in the current zoning code from the front setback be able to move forward for the pool project for 1200 Nix Road.
Okay, if you'll send that on to BZA, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. Item 6C, 580 Owens Farm Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. You said letters of support from neighbors?
From the western property owner.
Right.
And then
All right, these are good. These are good. We like the neighbors giving you letters. All right, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Rob Cunningham, live in Six Hills neighborhood. My wife and I bought our home back in July of 2004. And actually my first home, been there 18 years. Our neighbors on either side of us have been there 18 years. They were there before we got here. We have a great relationship, pleasant neighbors. Surprised my wife this last November with a building of a greenhouse, and I naively, having never added a structure to a home ever in 18 years or 60 years of my life, I put up a greenhouse too close to the sideline in the very back corner of our home. So finding out that I needed to shield that greenhouse, I've guaranteed my neighbor that it will be 1,000% invisible with green giant arborvitaes that are 12 to 13 feet tall and 6 to 8 feet wide. And we will make sure that the greenhouse is 100% invisible to our next door neighbor so they can't see it. And we're hoping that we could get a variance for the reason I put it there. We had access to power, we had access to water, we had a level plot. We didn't have to disturb the land. I didn't have to take out any trees. It was a perfect sort of a hideaway, tuck away in the back far corner of my yard. So conscientiously, I was hoping to put it out there where it would basically not be seen, but be functional. And I'm hoping that the variance approval for the green giant will make it invisible.
Okay. All right. Is there any opposition to this?
No, but I would like to tell you that the neighbor is the one who actually was not happy with the greenhouse before, but now since you met his requirement of green giants, he's given this letter of support to him.
So that's how this came about.
ask, what's,
Had to have been
Yeah,
a neighbor. Had to have been a neighbor. I'm sorry.
you go ahead.
I have a question.
Well, let me do this. Let's close the public hearing. We have no opposition. And we did have opposition from the neighbor, but we now have a letter from the neighbor. Have the green giants been installed?
No, sir, I was advised to maybe wait until we got it cleared up and make sure that there were any changes to the landscaping plan, or y'all wanted to make any recommendations. I've told him I won't spare any expense to make him happy.
All right. And our recommendation, perhaps our approval is based on the two neighbors and your commitment to put the green giants in.
Yeah.
When we send
Yes,
it
sir.
on to BZA. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. You may sit down and give it to the board for their discussion and their recommendation.
I just had a question for staff. What constitutes, like, to me, this is like a trampoline, right? It's not a permanent structure.
Not a substantial.
Yeah, it's not, I can't tell whether it's, concrete in the ground or anything like that. But my question is at what point does it become a structure versus a trampoline? Right. So I'm assuming that the city is assuming this is a permanent structure and kind of how that code reads. I guess it's stuff like this is obviously going to start to come back up as far as Milton is getting more and more busy, but you know,
So
Is
when
it-
we got a complaint, we actually asked them to move it, but since I think they have a concrete pad, if I can confirm it.
Come on back up to the mic because we have to record it.
The structure is put on a block pad, and there's power, there's water, and there's, so because I had access to all that, it would basically require a complete demolition. I couldn't just move it.
right,
So-
Also, it would be deemed a structure.
right. That was my question is
So we did ask them to move before we asked them to go for a variance, so.
so it's because of that why it's actually going forward the
Yeah.
variance.
So because of the
Usually,
foundation
if it's a
power.
play structure or something that can be moved, shed or something like the storage shed, we do ask them to move it instead of variance.
It may be
But if
my
they come up with an agreement with the neighbor for that, then it
mean-
becomes a civil thing, not really a city thing, correct? Okay.
Well, it's still the city. That's BZA.
I understood.
BZA is quasi-legal, and they're going to make a legal decision which can override the city's ordinances.
Got it. Okay.
And that's why it's going to BZA. So on the record, it would be a structure. It is in violation. He doesn't want to move it. And therefore, BZA is going to decide, does he move it? Or do they give him a variance? And that will legally override our ordinances.
How long has it been there? Oh, okay.
All right. So now can we get a recommendation?
Yes, sorry. Seeing as that you've got both neighbors, directly affected neighbors, in support of this, and seeing as how it's, you know, relative structure, I would make a motion to recommend approval to the Zoning Board of Appeals, for 580 Owens Farm Road.
And we want to add that to meet the letters and commitment to the
Correct.
residents,
Mhm.
that the BZA's decision would require him to put in the arborvitae. Okay, can I add that to yours?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, I think we're done. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 6D, 625 Old Doris Road.
Hello, good evening. My name's Mariah Berg. I work for Adventures Pools. I had filed for a pool permit for the property. And on the property, the homeowner had built this home in 2019. And it was 2 lots purchased that were combined into one as they built their home. We have been working with them for a few years now on this pool project. So as we finally got permitting in, we were told we need a variance. There is an original home, garage, and shed that were on one of the parcels that the homeowners do not wish to demo, that no longer meet code with the 2 parcels combined as far as setback and stream. And the existing structures are from the 60s.
And they were just missed when the home building.
They were
permit-
missed on the
Yeah, so they got missed a
2019.
couple of times.
Yes. Yeah, there's been several permits on the property the past 7 years.
And getting your variance from the creek buffer allows you then to be in compliance with our rules, regulations, allowing you to move forward with a
With my pool
pool.
permit, yeah.
So like so many of our pieces built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, Fulton County didn't come up here for 30 years and just
Yep.
everything got built. So it's a grandfathering issue. You got anything else you want to tell us?
Nope.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. And any opposition to this?
No opposition, but I'd like to add that the development engineer, similar to the first variance request, believes that removing the structures would cause more damage to the stream buffer than leaving them.
Okay. All right.
These are the structures, or have I got?
Yes.
Is the existing home occupied?
No, it is not. There is a very large home at the very end of the property. It's probably about 360 feet away from anything else.
But these look nearly falling down.
So that would be my only thing is I know it's a private property, but to me, the one building that's completely covered with ivy and then the other building, the house looks in pretty bad shape too. It just looks like an unsafe situation.
If the variance was granted or grandfather corrected, would they be able to build something else on these
Not, I mean.
No,
they-
because it would be
they
specific
can
to the
build
site.
another-
buildings? So
Can build another structure, but not in the setback. Right now, the variance is for encroaching in the setback, so, you know.
Good.
And it's,
One correction there. If they retain the slab and they repair these and reframe them, that they can rebuild these buildings.
yeah.
If you retain the slab.
So we will look into it, you know, BZA could put a condition that the footprint cannot be increased or enlarged.
so the buildings can be improved.
Can be improved, but
Rehab.
cannot be enlarged, you know, we can put that kind of a condition.
They could have put a second floor on here, so the word enlarged is incorrect.
The
They
footprint.
just can't change the footprint that is the violation in the creek buffer. It is the footprint that these buildings are sitting on. They could go out there and ask for a two-story club, apartment above this barn if they wanted to. Why would they not want to take
So
this
that's,
down?
that's.
Well, it actually falls back to the 2019 building permit. They were actually recommended not to demo them when they had filed for the 2019 due to it being in the creek. So that was kind of missed as far as the 2019 home building goes.
So as treacherous as they look, it would actually be more treacherous to take them down and disrupt the buffer?
That's what they were told in 2019. And as far as now, it's more of a cost and time doing a demo permit and doing the demolition of the buildings. Again, we've been working with these homeowners on this pool since about 2020. So we're finally at a place where we're ready to move forward. And now we're on another almost 4-month setback. So
And one more, did I hear that they don't live in the main house?
no. On the structures that are there?
Yeah, they live in the main house.
Yes. Yeah.
Not in these.
Not in this.
Yes. Yeah. They do
I
live in
just
the
had
main home.
heard somebody say they don't
Main
live,
house.
and we know they don't, so
Yeah,
Just wanted to-
not those structures.
want the record clear.
I think, from my standpoint is I believe in property rights. And I don't feel like that this should be mandated to be removed to put the pool in. However, for me is I look at this in these pictures and it reminds me of driving through rural mountain towns where cars and dishwashers and stuff are just left out. People's property overgrown, and over time it's going to be something for the future, especially these being unsafe. Again, private property rights, I'm on that. So it just seems to me like this is a golden opportunity to get rid of these buildings that are unsafe.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah, of
They
course.
are not visible from the main road.
Mhm. Understood.
And
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, so you may sit down
Thank you.
and ask the board for their recommendation to BZA. Again, I think you've hit on some key points. And anytime somebody says, we're not going to ever sell the property, we all understand that all property gets sold sooner or later. And
Reed and I are thankful for that.
Yes, we are.
And the decisions we make, we are cleaning up many poor decisions 30 to 50 years ago and have been for years. But also the decisions we make, this board will be dealing with in 10, 20, or 30 years.
Is there any issue if that structure's improved and becomes a guest house?
If it sits there, there's actually a value to keeping those structures because somebody in the future could build new buildings on them. In my particular case, we had a large barn in the floodplain. And I was grandfathered, and I was advised not to tear that down because I could build a nice new big building on top of it if I just kept the slab. We spent a good bit of time on this legal issue. And some days I wish I wouldn't have, but we did tear it down because we wanted the view to be better from Freemanville. So but I don't think we have the position or authority to recommend somebody tear them down. Just know these could come back to see you again in the future if somebody was wanting to build on those pads. So, and those are part of the decision-making you're making and BZA will be making. Okay? So, Ken's dominating all the.
No, I'm sorry.
So let's,
I did my
somebody
research.
make a recommendation to BZA for me.
I just back to your thought, if someone were to build something else there, like there's already a building there. So if they do and they improve the value of the property by building something nicer there, then that's not that's not a bad thing either.
Well, it's a bad thing it's in the creek buffer, but that's already there.
But it's already there.
Yeah, so it's already there.
Right.
Decades and decades.
So it's an asset they own and a benefit they have, and it was done prior to the laws that are all in
That's
place
right.
today. So, I don't blame them.
Not visible from the road.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I
the
agree.
only reason I
I
bring it
agree.
up is we got into, should they be torn down? They're old, they look bad, the washer dryer story. And so it is, and that led me to be clear in public record. Many people look at this, you know how I feel about precedent. What you do for one, you must do for all. And so I just wanted to clear that up.
I'm with you. If
Yep.
it was my property, I'd tear it down, but
And
that's
then
not
in-
our job. That's
then
not where we're supposed to
In
vote
10
on,
years,
so
one of your kids may want to move back
That's
home and
right.
you build them a little guest house on top of that
there
slab.
you go.
And all you gotta do is kill all the ivy and redo it and you got a new building.
Yeah,
Overlooking the creek, it'll be beautiful.
It would be an incredible guest
Well, now
house.
you would have to, if they did, and I'm sorry to,
No, it's fine.
but if they did add a second story on that existing structure, they would have to get a variance at that point, would they
Yeah.
not? Yeah.
So we will put some conditions on it. It's
Yeah,
not
got it.
going to-
Okay.
Some of these are just tricky little things depending on
I
circumstances.
feel like more and more of this kind of stuff is going to come up. So just seeing as a precedent for the future, we're at least discussing it and talking.
To
about it.
Doug's point, it's an improvement over the structures there if it comes back.
Yeah.
City.
Yep.
All right, so now who's going to give us our recommendation tonight to BZA on item 7, on item, whatever it was. What was it?
6D.
60.
6D.
I recommend that the existing structures at 625 Old Doris Road be allowed to remain in the stream buffer and impervious setback, for the garage to remain in front of the primary home and the detached garage to encroach on the 60-foot front yard setback.
Okay, there you go. All right, next item on the agenda.
Get your pool now. Yeah. But to wait about 6 more months for concrete. Yeah, that's not bad.
Take care.
All right, item 7A, 13690 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia.
Good evening. Sergeant Scott Mulvey with the City of Milton Police Department here today to ask for approval to be able to add or change what was originally asked for when the property was built on for our public safety complex from a four-rail horse fence over to a 6-foot type aluminum picket fence for security. And then also in the future to be able to add a security gate that will be for the entrance of the fire and police department.
And that is what we have before us in the working drawings.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I assume this will be painted black?
It's gonna be a black, yeah, it's that aluminum style fence, so it's already powder coated black.
Okay, so it'll be
And then they'll
black.
do the gate, eventually when we do the gate, hopefully next budget year, it'll match what the fence is. They'll be able to build it that way.
Okay. Any opposition to this?
No.
Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
With this, you need a security gate at the police department?
Yes.
This whole thing
Confuses me.
you
backwards
asked.
to
I
me.
was
Confuses me.
I knew that would come up. You guys see the news just like everybody else. I know we're in Milton, and we try to explain that to our officers. Yes, we're in Milton, but things still happen. We have had some instances at the police side and at the fire side. Fire side, now that we share the court with Alpharetta, the court's being used 5 days a week. We've had attorneys, hopefully none of y'all are attorneys, but we've had attorneys go into the fire department and actually walk in there and start asking them, where's the court? Because I have a case I have to work on. And they have to explain to them, it's the public safety building. My captain and I have tried, we've put up multiple signs. We have a temporary sign. I had a new sign built with brighter letters, bigger arrows. We've tried everything we possibly can. People still walk up to our back door, and my office is the first office in there, slamming on the door, walk out. They're like, I'm trying to get to court. Big letters I put on the window, do not enter, employee entrance only. And we just still can't. We even had an instance with a gentleman. Luckily, it was nothing crazy, but he came to ask a question about a gun and had the gun in his hand.
All
So,
right, well, let's get you secured.
yeah. Before, yeah.
Right away. I'm worried.
Advancement of
I'm worried.
public safety
I want to
and-
get this up tomorrow. Let's get going. All right, so we've closed the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no opposition, the board's going to make its recommendation, and then we'll ask for a vote.
Yeah, you can approve this.
Yeah, we know. Okay, any discussion?
No.
I think architecturally, the fence looks good. It's painted black, so architecturally, we're good with it. So I would make a motion that item 7A, 13690 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, the public safety complex, this be approved. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for what you do for us too.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we're on new business. New business is discussion of the proposed Milton Mayfield Overlay District. And I've given the package to Reed earlier and to Ken earlier, and now the two of you have it. Remind me, we need to get Casey a package. And so let me answer any questions you have about this. Again, Reed and Ken had an hour meeting with me about it a month ago. The current update is when all of us begin the year in January, in numerous meetings, I said, I'm concerned about the historic houses on Mayfield. I'm concerned with the year or two history of this area and what's going to happen. I'm concerned with the height and density on Heritage Way. So over the last 2 years, I've worked on this. Over the last 3 months, I've worked with the mayor and community development director and the city attorney in depth. We asked for a 30-day emergency moratorium, which was granted 3 or 4 weeks ago. We are in that 30-day moratorium now. We appeared at the work session last night with city council. And by the way, on our 30-day moratorium, the vote was 6-1 with one council member just not sure and wasn't up to speed enough, I think. I don't want to put words in their mouths, but that's where we were. So it was approved. The work session last night, I believe, was unanimous from all the council members that they liked what we're doing. They want to carry on. We had several of the landowners in the district there to speak in favor of it. We have spoken to more than half of the landowners. The next step in this moratorium, or the next step in creating this district, is on July 25th, the council will vote to extend the moratorium for 6 months, allowing DRB and the community development director and staff to formulate all the new overlay ideas, the character area, and to decide what this is really going to look like in the years ahead. Many of these sites may not be developed for 10 or 15 years, but we want a cohesive district here, and the map really tells you the story. And so July 25th, we hope to get the 6-month moratorium, allowing staff to prepare the overlay and the character area of what we expect in this area. As you look at the area, it is very special. I don't have in your package, we had a study done over the last 3 months by the Historical Society. That's in the public domain now and has been tendered to council. You can get that about all these properties. Milton's beginning 125 years ago, Milton County. When we use the word Milton and Milton County, history began up here, of course, with the Indians, but 100 years ago, this intersection at Mayfield, Mid-Broadwell, Broadwell, was the center of commerce. And the Rucker Cotton Gin was here. 3 of these houses were built by the Ruckers and then sold to various friends and neighbors. The Broadwell building, item 16, has been here for more than 100 years. It's actually been owned by the family that owns it now for 60 years. And the 3rd generation of the family owns this building now, the Broadwell building. So lots of important things here. We like the character of the library. We think that says Milton. This board had a lot to do with the medical buildings that are being put in. We held the case 2 or 3 times. We went out and hired an outside architect, Tim Bryan, to do architectural plans. We weren't happy with what was going to go there. It didn't, and Reed, you were very involved in the medical buildings, wanting them to look 2-story, even though they're only 1-story. And that was your point. And we had Tim Bryan do the work on that, and the end result is fantastic. And that was really difficult for the board and the developer because it required several months and lots of compromise on the developer's part to get where we are. But I've heard many, many, many positive comments about these medical buildings. Of course, everybody loves the townhomes across the street, and many, many people are voicing their opinions on the height of some of the buildings on Heritage Way. I call it Heritage Way Phase 2. So that's what we're after here, is a more walkable Charlottesville, Virginia, Woodstock, Vermont, Canton Street, and Roswell. Looking for more of a character area and protecting the history of Milton for future generations, that, oh, this was what Milton looked like way back. And so next, you will see that there are 22 parcels. I would point out in the box on the top of your map there, but there are only 11 individual owners. The parcels in red are owned by one developer, and that developer has parcel 17 and 18 and 14 in yellow under contract.
Which parcels again? Parcels?
Everything in red
Okay.
and the 3 parcels in yellow.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't have the
That's these 2 here, and this horn out here,
Okay.
14, 17, and 18.
So we've coded those. And then another big parcel is Larry Davenport. He's 21 and 22. So really, 2 landowners really have very important pieces of this puzzle. And I've met with both of them. The Davenport family spoke last night in favor of our vision for the area. Can't speak right now for the developer. For Reed, I know you were here when we denied the demo permit on item 2 about 2 years ago. He went on and has continued to buy and own these properties. And the assemblage is actually great, I think. Instead of dealing with this in one-off little pieces, it's going to be great that we have one owner that has acquired these. And so we only have one person to have to work with to create what we want. As we all know, Milton's is coming in with a major expansion, supposedly in the $1.5 million, $2 million range, upgrades, all kind of really great ideas that you'll be seeing sometime in the next few months. So that brings you up to speed on the district at Mayfield and those structures and where we are. And hopefully I'll report to you in our next DRB meeting that council has elected to move forward with our 6-month moratorium. And they didn't vote last night, but I think, Shubha, you would say they were all in favor.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to vote next, on
The
25th.
25th.
25th is when they are going to vote on moratorium. So
I
that's
s-
when the work begins, I guess.
Yeah, my question to you was, did you seem to think last night they were all in favor?
Yeah, they seemed in favor, yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
In favor of the moratorium?
The 6 month.
Yeah.
They told us to move forward and to continue working toward that, and they would vote on it on the 25th. And all of this timing is about legal and the city attorney. We got our 30-day emergency moratorium to allow us to notify all the homeowners and landowners have been notified in the district, and they had a chance to come to the work session and voice their thoughts. They will have that chance on the 25th, and then there'll be a final vote. And yet nothing is done on the 25th, but allowing us to do the overlay, continue to work with the landowners, and then bring back to council sometime during that 6 month our proposal for this district. Now, what questions have you got? What can I answer?
So I guess my first question is, so number 3, property 3, TF and SF properties, where the florist is?
Y'all labeled it differently.
Item 3 is the florist. And item 3 are great guys. The 2 guys that own the florist are wonderful. I sat with them for 2 hours a week or 2 ago. They, and I can't speak for them. I can only say what they said then. It doesn't mean that they won't change their mind. But they're going to cut flowers and do what they're doing on this site for another 3 to 5 years, unless they get the number that they think the property's worth, and somebody offers them that number, and they choose to sell. And they were very hopeful that they would be taken out of business as soon as possible with the right number.
Sure.
And I'm not going to disclose the number they told me. That's between them. But they were very open with where they want to be. They were very open with the offer they have from the developer. And of course, that's a private negotiation.
Sure.
That needs to carry on.
So the intent of this moratorium is to proactively define the parameters upon which Mayfield Farms would be able to develop this massive piece here, and what may or may not happen with these other pieces down the road.
If I could maybe change that and lean it a little more legal. The purpose of the moratorium was to give us 6 months to put an overlay in place, much like we're doing in Deerfield, and to decide how the city and the council wants to see this developed. It has really nothing to do with any one owner because all of these parcels individually will have to come to us for DRB approval, planning commission, so on. So it's really a district because it's a unique set of roads, it's a unique area, and it wants to be a district for setbacks, landscape buffers, all kind of things can be made very much better by having this district. It,
Because of the history, you drive down the street, there's an obvious,
Sure.
distinct difference of that area. So I like it. I like the idea.
just want to be legal. It's not about any one owner.
No, I was just using that as the example, because obviously if they buy number 3, they're going to have, a third of this entire district that we're talking about. And so what we're looking to do with this is to then, they would have all that right there, right? So it's to give them, to enable the city to be more prescriptive of what they would be able to do when it is time for them to start developing.
Right. It's to have a coordinated, again, Canton Street. Roswell decided 25 years ago what they wanted to see in Canton Street, and they stood in there over the years as that's been developed. We have a unique area here. I think, and the council, I think, voiced last evening that they agree a special district here is important, and that we don't want this to be hodgepodge. We really don't want more of what we already have. 3-story buildings pulled up to the road, even though that's the zoning here, that we would like through an overlay and through a character area to think how this is going to be developed. We also think, and my goal was to bring in the minimum number of properties we needed to bring in. We think the area behind 14 and 15 may come in later, and possibly some areas over here behind 22 and 21. But once we form the district, then those will be adjacent to the district. So, and I would point out that while land, the amount of land one person owns, Milton's is just one parcel, and that's 7. And the Cotton Gin next door is just one parcel. Those are critically important to the corner. And as Reed says, the feel as you drive through there. So again, it's about the entire area. And it started really 10 years ago when Bob and the city designed the library, which certainly wasn't like any other public library in Fulton County. And that character was taken on. Reed and I, through many meetings over the last 5 years, have held Taylor Morrison accountable for the quality of what we've gotten there. They've come to us over and over as they change things, and the end result is really great on Taylor Morrison's townhomes. And we think there could be some townhomes over in this area, maybe parcel 14, maybe 15, maybe further down. But we want that character area to be the same.
Why not include that final pie parcel between Mid-Broadwell and Charlotte?
I didn't want the ask to get bigger than maybe we could get done. And the key historic pieces that are outlined in the Historical Society's report, can you send that to everybody?
Is it in the packet, council packet?
It is. It was tendered
I'll have to pull it and send it to you.
Yeah, it was tendered to the city manager on Friday before last night. So send them all the Historical Society study that was done for the district. So that's the reason. Several council members have asked me why we're not. Several council members said, why aren't we going on down Broadwell Road? And I just said,
Got to be a stop.
I want to save the core and the heart of this and not overreach.
Yeah, beyond that yellow is pretty much residential in that direction
Yeah,
anyway.
that's the only thing.
It's nice though
13 is one.
you had that
It's the only-
included in the historic district to go all the way down to the corner that's kind of a gateway into our area. And, you know, if, I don't know what kind of restrictions or architecturally guidelines would be placed on on a historic district, but it would be nice maybe to keep that consistent all the way down to that stop sign and all the way up to the roundabout.
And Reed brought that up in our meeting, and I conveyed that to everybody, and I agree with you 100%. We think that if 15 and 14 are in, those will come on in too, and by then the overlay will set a precedent for the district, which they will be adjacent to. And then, as Doug says, that's almost all residential over there anyway. If anything, the district would probably enhance what they can do with their properties,
Right, it would increase property value.
not lower them.
For the folks adjacent to it, for sure.
Correct.
Last,
It's protected, yeah.
this is really important. Look at this is my goal here, and that's been conveyed to each council member, is for Milton to put its arms around this district. And by doing a district and an overlay, 10-foot landscape strips or setbacks or various things can be waived. There are no, and this is all subject to the boards doing this, but with a district, all three boards have more flexibility to create something. For instance, there are no sidewalks on Mid-Broadwell. And cars, it's a cut-through street for people going somewhere else because only 2 or 3 people live on the street. And it could be a very, very attractive addition. And as a district, the city can say, okay, we're going to put sidewalks down here. We're going to widen the road a little bit. We'll put in sidewalks on both sides. We want to see street lights in the district. We can't do that for one landowner or one developer. But together, putting it in a district, we have much more firepower in helping the district become what we want it to be. So the district makes all landowners better. This will all come out later. There's discussions that maybe at the side of 4, between 4 and 10, that a loop road go through that then goes over onto 21 and maybe loops on out to Broadwell. And maybe a little bit of Mid-Broadwell's closed right there where that intersection is so dangerous. That's the city's DOT. That's not our area, but a district allows that discussion to happen. And the community development director tells me that was thought of and in the books 15 years ago that maybe eventually there would be a loop road through there to connect those 3 roads. So that's just all the things that are going on. But during the 6 months, we really spend time with the landowners and we really spend time with staff and figure out what we want for the district. I know according to the Davenports, they're real happy with the rents they're getting on their buildings. And they've owned the land 20, 25 years. And Larry loves it. Jody, his wife, loves it. And they have no plans to do anything in the next 5 or 10 years. But getting this sorted out now would benefit them also. And they were speakers last night that they support the district. All right. Any questions I can answer? Any discussion you want to have?
My only other question, I think, is do we know what Mayfield Farms' intent is to do with it? Like, have we seen what they've dreamt up, what this might look like?
They're in that
eventually?
process now. They haven't closed on 17 and 18, and they have not shown anyone their plans.
Down all the red, and they're under contract.
The red
for
and the
these
yellow.
3. That one is kind of right in the middle of them.
They'll sell if they get the rest of those
Oh my
properties.
God.
That's
They'll sell for a hefty price.
Which one are you talking about?
The flower
Florist.
shop will sell. If Mayfield
Right.
gets those other 3,
that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
if they can assemble those other parcels, then this piece becomes that much more valuable to them.
Mhm.
I agree with it. There's pros and cons, I think, right? Coming from a developer standpoint, but I'd love to see and be able to be a part of helps, presenting and shaping this little portion to be more like Canton Street in
we're
Roswell.
preserving it.
I think the long-term
Yeah.
benefit outweighs pain with developers.
Well,
Yeah,
20,
and I'm
30
used to
years
those,
down
so.
the line, it's going to be better if it's controlled.
I agree.
Well,
And-
it does make it unique. Unique is good in a lot of ways, and having an historic district or a district, an arts district, a district of some sort is a benefit. A lot of communities and the
And
community at
businesses.
large, yeah, it's a good.
Did the developer, were they there last night?
they were not.
Okay. But you've spoken with them.
I have spoken with them.
Okay.
Do they know this is coming?
Huh?
Do they know this is coming?
Yes, they do. But remember, as we sit here, We represent Milton and 48,000 people. We do not represent a developer.
Right.
We are not here to increase land values for anyone. We're here to increase and protect the quality of life in Milton.
Mhm.
So that's why we think there's a district here, and we think there's an opportunity to create a Canton Street or something. And again, it's not about any one developer, any one property value. It's about what we on this board, and it just happens that this falls into DRB's um, rules, obligation, bylaws, that we would front this, and the council agrees unanimously.
Yeah.
And-
Sorry
and-
for all my questions. I just
Oh,
hadn't seen
no.
any of this until tonight.
This needs to be well discussed by all of us, and there are pros and cons. We would like to see this when it's done, where it won't be the best thing for everyone. We know that, but it will be the best thing for Milton and Milton's 48,000 customers, voters, taxpayers, our bosses. So, and it will be unique and special, and it will protect a lot of history. Let me cover one other little point. We are not trying to create a historical district, so let us not ever go down that road. There are a lot of historical structures here, but we do not want a historical district because that puts a lot more rules, regulations, and issues in place that we, as the Design Review Board, don't want to have to deal with, nor do we want our property owners to have to deal with. We want to use the term contributing structures. They may be historic. We want to use the term a themed area, overlay, and just a vision. And I really like to point out the library, the medical buildings, and Taylor Morrison are really cute. That corner is coming together. And Reed, you and I had a lot to do with that, and staff. And that's more what we want to see here. And we want to protect those owners and enhance their values, Milton's, the Cotton Gin, the Broadwell building, those buildings that are there now that mean a lot to the people of Milton. And we think it's pretty nifty that that this be a themed area. When you go to, Old Milton, or whatever people choose to call it. And there you go.
What's the district, what's this area right here called? Doesn't that have a name over here where all those restaurants are going in, where the Starbucks and
Market District,
the
isn't it?
Market District, is that what that is?
And I guess, what does Mr. Orkin call his? It's
Orkin is a
Crabapple
Crabapple Market.
Yeah, it's too much market, too much crabapple.
Crabapple
We
Market.
need to stay away from those.
Yeah, we
names.
need to
Yeah, that was part of my plan. So Adams is Crabapple Market, and then what's the next phase?
Market District, isn't it?
So Market District is Beecham's.
Right.
Orkins is Crabapple Market, and then I think Lakeside was Strawberry Field or something.
So I think the townhomes now drive that name. So, that's why we came up with the district at Mayfield. District is more of a millennial word, we think, a little younger word. When we're done, we just, it's in the record, so we know that the developer's calling his farms. We don't think it'll look like a farm when it's all done. It may have been 100 years ago. We think it's a walkable, themed district, much like Canton Street. That's our best example. And I think it's important, if you want to get a flavor of what this can be, go to the Painted Horse Tasting Room over in Alpharetta. It's a historic house, wine tasting, a band out back, a lovely place to go. And so if you really think about And as I worked on this for 3 months, we walked every foot of the district, literally, over and over, and all of Alpharetta's. And Alpharetta has some new buildings. They have some really old buildings blended together. Right there on Main Street is the former mayor's building. There's a restaurant on the ground, and J.K. Lockwood Construction's on the second floor. That's a 100-year-old building. And so obviously, economically, they work. And so we're just taking a lot from what's right under our nose and letting the city, through this effort, wrap its arms around this district and protect it and make sure it's going to go where we all think it should go.
It was a restaurant underneath there before too.
What was there always?
It was Nantucket before that, if you remember that.
There was a
Chantel Beach
tile
owned
shop at one point.
Nantucket. What's that?
Nantucket wasn't it a coffee shop?
Nantucket was a sandwich shop. Yeah. Great chicken salad.
Here's a real nifty story. If you look at item 12 and 13, that was a tea
Wax
house.
House? Yeah.
And how long have you been here?
I graduated from Milton High School in 95, so I've been here a long time.
So do you know Brad Flack?
Mhm.
So remember, I'm the newbie, 5 years. And we really value, we moved to Milton for what Milton is and was. And my wife and I don't want it to change. And keeping it as close to the things you're remembering. So
I've
it's
been here
really,
since third grade. That's when we moved.
so the really cool thing about, you've been here since the third grade. So item 12 is the tea room. Brad Flack and his wife Ann bought that some years ago. Tim Bryan, who sat on this board 7 years, redesigned it and made it into readapted it to a guest house. And they moved in it while Tim designed and built their house. That house they're in is a brand new house, but you would swear it's 100 years old. And that was their purpose. When Brad designed it through Tim, he wanted it to look old. So that was neat. I knew about all that. Tim designed my barn. But in sitting there 2 weeks ago with the Flacks, Brad's parents lived down the street a half a mile on Mid-Broadwell. And Brad, as a young man, rode his horse up to the bike shop, which was a general store at that time. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And we're about 3 years away from having none of that history if we didn't take control of this and create this district. And I know it means a lot to Brad. He spoke in support of what we're doing. And as we said, his house could be, if he chooses to sell it in 20 or 30 years, a clubhouse, or it could be a great restaurant like Milton's too. But it's in the district. It fits the district. So now we look at the Flax residence, the tea house, the Broadwell building, Milton's things they're doing, the library, the medical buildings, and Taylor Morrison's townhomes. And we start really seeing what this character area is going to be. So it isn't like we're out here dreaming up something that's off the wall. We have 8 or 9 wonderful examples now of what we want to keep. So there you go. But lots of discussion. We'll look at this monthly as we move through the design and the creation of the district over the next 6 months, should the council vote to extend the moratorium 6 months. They haven't done that yet. We're hopeful they will. So anyway, thank you for your time on that. And anything you hear, we'd love to put in a public forum so everybody's aware of what's going on. And it's all out there for everyone's discussion. With that, staff, do we have any other items?
No, no old business. Just
All right, can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll motion to close.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Meeting's closed. Meeting's adjourned.